We gather tonight as a community in response to the mass shooting that happened in Texas last Tuesday. We gather tonight because we can, because we must. We gather tonight to look for ways to build community, to find ways to move forward, to find a new path. And that's why we're here tonight. If you gathered tonight because you came to argue or debate, that's not why we're here tonight. We're here to work together, to establish ourselves as together and as a community. And it is my hope and prayer that we are blessed in the process. So our first speaker tonight, who will be speaking from the lectern, is Anthony Conte. Welcome, Anthony.
Well, another one. Another one, another one. I feel sadness. Sadness no longer factors into this for me. No, instead I swing between numbness and rage. The pointless questions are being asked again. How could this happen? What can be done? And while the pundits and elected officials go around in a fog, we, the general public, the voters, taxpayers, citizens, community members, vox populi, targets, and potential future victims are left to react and put the pieces of the puzzle back together again. We're tired, we're numb, we're angry, and we're afraid. Since the Texas massacre last week, there have been others. Over a dozen more mass shootings have occurred. Dozens injured and others dead. Another one, another one, another one. We no longer remember the victims' names, or the location, or the murderer. Each life extinguished has become just another number. After this senseless tragedy, a poem began to circulate on social media again. Its title, America is a Gun. The author, Brian Bilston. It goes like this. England is a cup of tea. France, a wheel of ripened brie. Greece, a short, squat olive tree. America is a gun. Brazil is football on the sand. Argentina, Maradona's hand. Germany, an oompa band. America is a gun. Holland is a wooden shoe. Hungary, a goulash stew. Australia, a kangaroo. America is a gun. Japan is a thermal spring. Scotland is a highland fling. Oh, better to be anything than America as a gun. I can only speak for myself, but as an American, I don't want the world to see me as a gun. To me, America is so much more than that tool. For a gun really is just a tool, isn't it? To me, America is our rivers. America is the floodlights hitting the field for an evening game and an auditorium full of people for a concert. It's heading to the polls at the town hall or the high school. It's hiking up Mount Major in the smell of lilacs. It's Yankee brown bread as much as it is creamy grits. It's as much Charleston as it is Boston, as it is Albuquerque, as it is Crown Point, Indiana. America is a vast and diverse thing full of marvelous spectacle and people, as well as a storied history fraught with glory, innovation, drama, and more upsetting things. America, to me, often boils down to a feeling, the feeling of seeing better, desiring to do better and make better, not just for oneself, but for all. We have a duty to each other. For nearly 20 years, we've seen mass shootings, the murder of children, the elderly, and law enforcement occur with more and more regularity. What else have we seen? The descent of the middle class and disappearance of safety nets created decades ago, and the ludicrous rise of costs in housing and education and healthcare, among other things. We've seen people lose their homes and employment and their health and mental and spiritual well-being as the rich have truly just gotten richer. We have seen a rise in bitterness and suspicion. We've experienced the fear for the other. I would never say that as a people we've been faultless or that our past is truly lily white, but I will say there were some wonderful things that have gone by the wayside as we move forward to the next tomorrow. That tomorrow has yet to be decided, and in that observation I find hope. How do we build a better world? How do we save ourselves and our students, our elderly, our workers, our shoppers, our concert goers, and parishioners from senseless, violent death? As long as guns are available, we can never eradicate mass shootings, though we can make it harder for these to occur. I don't advocate for any revocation of our Second Amendment, nor do I advocate arming our teachers or having armed guards in our schools. I certainly do not advocate private ownership of weapons like the AR-15 or other assault rifles. These are as necessary for hunting or home protection as a tank. I advocate for education and health care and access. If we want to minimize these senseless deaths, we need to offer national health care to all. Mental health and stability are always factors in a mass shooting. People need access to unlimited health care. We also need an education system that prepares our students to cope with the world they face. Beyond computer and science classes, we need to offer fuller courses in life skills, cooking, mending, basic car repair, how to file an income tax, as well as the arts. As people, we cope through either destruction or creation. And rudimentary education in sciences, life skills, and the arts help us cope with life's ups and downs in the more positive, creative manner. It's my firm belief that if every student in our public schools, well, it is a firm belief that they should have a course in firearms safety and management. I'm not an NRA spokesman, but I believe that the fear many of us hold for guns would be significantly reduced if we could find some basic knowledge about these tools. Only after completing a course in firearms safety and management should a person be able to apply for a firearms license. This is not unlike the process of acquiring a driver's license, and could be a good compromise, and it would act as a possible deterrent to someone intent on harming others. They'll know that most other people around them will know how to handle a firearm as well. Illegal weapons will always be a factor, but that factor could be minimized if we renew our promise to each other. Let us build education and healthcare systems that will once again be the envy of the world, and let's make sure that everyone has access to them. The people who murder are not comfortable in life nor happy in spirit. We can create safeguards to make it harder to collapse into a place where murdering a room full of children or people in the produce aisle or having a standoff with police seems like a good idea. My final thought is that if no reforms occur, if our elected officials let us down, if teachers begin to carry AR-15s in the halls of fortified high schools full of students whose families live in poverty and have little or no access to health care, we had better hope that we have a community. Go out and talk to your neighbors. Help your town through various volunteer organizations and get to know others that you don't know. We've spent too much time by ourselves in front of small screens. We've isolated ourselves, and only through community and communication is there an understanding and a hope for better days so that these tragedies no longer have to happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony, and I'd like to invite Elaine Pratt to come forward.
Good evening. I'm going to be reading a poem that was written by Amanda Gorman, the amazingly talented young woman who many of you probably heard for the first time, like me, at the inauguration, and it's entitled Hymn for the Hurting. Everything hurts. Our hearts shadowed and strange, minds made muddied and mute. We carry tragedy, terrifying and true, and yet none of it is new. We knew it as home, as horror, as heritage. Even our children cannot be children, cannot be. Everything hurts. It's a hard time to be alive, and even harder to stay that way. We're burdened to live out these days, while at the same time, blessed to outlive them. This alarm is how we know we must be altered, that we must differ or die, that we must triumph or try. Thus, while hate cannot be terminated, it can be transformed into a love that lets us live. May we not just grieve, but give. May we not just ache, but act. May our signed right to bear arms never blind our sight from shared harm. May we choose our children over chaos. May another innocent never be lost. Maybe everything hurts, our hearts shadowed and strange, but only when everything hurts, may everything change.
Thank you, Elaine. And I want to invite Craig Worth to come forward, who is going to share a song with us, and there will be words on the screen for you to sing along if you'd like.
This is a hymn for me of comfort and inspiration and calling to serve. Wake now my senses. Wake now my senses and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow, giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty of wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill wide the sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now my conscience, with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care.
I feel like I want to listen to that song every single morning as my start of the day. It was beautiful, Craig. Thank you. We now will hear words from our chief of police in town, Greg Jordan, but his words will be presented by his daughters, Reagan and Savannah Jordan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Savannah Jordan, and this is my sister, Reagan Jordan. Unfortunately, our dad couldn't be here tonight. He did test positive for COVID. And I'm very lucky because my sister's much better at public speaking, so she's going to be reading all of the words from my dad. Hi. These are some thoughts from Chief Jordan. As I sat in class in the New Hampshire Police Academy, learning the skills necessary to become a police officer, the staff came into the room to notify us of a horrific incident, one that would change me in the way I viewed things in the world that day. April 20th, 1999, 2 students entered Columbine High School in Colorado and killed 12 students and 1 teacher. The news was shocking, horrifying, and this could not happen in the world I know, not on our watch. We would never let this happen again. We couldn't. We won't. This is evil, and we need to eradicate it. We thought that is what would happen. Fast forward 23 years, 2022. I'm the chief of police for the town of Newmarket. Last week, we had an 18-year-old man or boy enter a school and commit terrible acts of violence against 19 children and 2 staff members, causing their deaths in Uvalde, Texas. It appears, or feels like, we have not made any progress in the last 23 years. And at times, it appears we have become numb to the reality of school children being harmed, or worse, at their schools. Have we become numb to this? Is this what we are willing to accept? Actions speak louder than words, so does inaction. We have fortified schools, businesses, and gathering places. We have placed police officers in many schools, along with social workers and therapists. Yet, these terrible incidents continue to happen at an alarming pace. What we are doing does not appear to be working, and we are not willing to take the actions necessary to make those changes. What are we missing? What is going on that is causing such violence? What causes, in this particular case, a young man to be so angry, so helpless, so devoid of hope that he turns to such an unspeakable act of violence as his only way of striking back at a world that he is so angry at? I think it is time for all of us, and by us I mean we. We need to understand that this is our problem, one that we have created, one that we have allowed, one that we will have to fix together. We are all responsible for where we are, and we are all responsible for fixing it or finding the right solution. We must understand. This is not a school problem, not a police problem, not a video game problem, not a Uvalde problem, not their problem, not a Democrat problem, not a Republican problem, not us and them. It is our problem. Uncomfortable conversations will need to happen. We will need to listen to each other, hear each other, be vulnerable, be open to accepting new ideas and new ways of doing things. We will need to be willing to give and to learn and to accept. I think we could all show more compassion, empathy, and understanding in learning how to view others without judging. I think that is a good start towards healing hearts and minds. I long for a place where kids dream of summer vacation, not worry about their safety while attending school. We had that place at one time, and we need to get back there. Change people's experiences, and you will change their minds, which will in turn change the results. If we all make a vow to change something, one thing, not all at once, but a little each day, before you know it, we will have changed the world. We will have changed the world to a better place and time. It can be fixed by us. I pray for all those involved, everyone. I pray for those with us tonight. I apologize for not being present. I tested positive for COVID-19 today. Let's make the world a better place for all of us. Thank you, Gregory Jordan, Chief of Police.
Thank you. Well spoken. Thank you very much, Reagan and Savannah. And I'd like to invite Peter Nato to come forward.
Good evening. So my perspective for tonight is that I am a school psychologist. I work at Dover High School as the only school psychologist for 1,500 struggling students. Not all of them struggling, but many. So I want to talk a little bit about that in the context of what's going wrong and what's happening in schools and what's happening to children in schools, as other people have demonstrated. And I want to give Anthony a shout out to the mental health needs of our youth and our adults. So what I notice, and certainly COVID is a big trigger for that, in schools across the nation, we're not unique to this. We have the highest rates that we've ever seen in absenteeism, skipping classes, going to school and not going to classes, failure, not getting credits. What else do we see? The most hospitalizations we've ever seen. The most kids referred for special ed services because there's no other services. As we know, outpatient mental health services kids are on hold for weeks, months. They go to the hospital for suicidal ideation, and they sit in a emergency room, and they may be actually housed there for days, even a week, before they can actually get mental health services. So something's wrong. And I was at a meeting this week. We were all the school counselors and some administrators were talking about what are we going to do different next year. It's not working, and we talked about ways to help with attendance in classes and services for kids. And the conversation began to shift to what are we doing as adults? What are we modeling? What are we not doing? Because we know that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. And we can't blame the children for why things aren't working. What are we not doing as adults to show them the way? We're as lost as they are. We're as tired as they are. We're as scared as they are. But we're supposed to have the tools to shepherd them, to bring them closer. So I thought I would share something before I do a reading too. And because in my world of school psychology, we talk about coping all the time, or what I want to talk about is resiliency. How do you bounce back when things have gone wrong? And Sam Goldstein's a psychologist who's done a lot of data. He doesn't talk about anything unless he has data to support, and I'm not going to give data, but it's too much psychobabble for me. But one thing he says is that the body only has one emotion, arousal. And then it's what our thoughts, it's what our feelings are, it's how we interpret that, it's what we remember in our experiences in life, and then that shapes our emotions, it shapes our thoughts. But it starts with just an arousal, and then you turn it into love or anger or fear or confusion or violence. So it's an interesting concept. And so in terms of resiliency, how do we cope? How do we bounce back? There's some qualities that the data says people need. One is the need to have the ability to be affectionate, to be social, to function on your own, to have motivation, to have a positive self-concept, to have some impulse control, to have what they call an internal locus of control, means that I'm the master of my way as opposed to a victim of all the things around me. They made me do that. They made me angry. they made me, whatever. I can't do that. So, fancy term for not being able to be in charge of yourself. Also, planning skills, humor, helpfulness, and faith. Faith is on that list. Believing in something without a belief that you may not be able to prove is so, but you choose to believe or choose to love, which is what I like. So, with all the tragedy that we have, a friend of mine, I had another reading, but this came to me in an email today, and I want to share it with you. Every Friday afternoon, an elementary teacher asks her students to take out a piece of paper and write down the names of 4 children with whom they'd like to sit the following week. The children know that these requests may or may not be honored. She always asks the students to nominate one student who they believe has been an exceptional classroom citizen that week. All ballots are privately submitted to her. And every single Friday afternoon, after the students go home, she takes out those slips of paper, places them in front of her, and studies them, and looks for patterns. Who is not getting requested by anyone else? Who can't think of anyone to request? Who never gets noticed enough to be nominated? Who had 1 million friends last week and none this week? You see, she is not looking for a new seating chart or exceptional citizens. She is looking for lonely children. She's looking for children who are struggling to connect with other children. She's identifying the little ones who are falling through the cracks of the class and the class's social life. She is discovering whose gifts are going unnoticed by their peers, and she's pinning down right away who's being bullied and who's doing the bullying. As a teacher, parent, and lover of all children, I think this is the most brilliant love ninja strategy I have ever encountered. This isn't me speaking, this is the author of this. Okay. It's like an x-ray of a classroom to see beneath the surface of things and into the hearts of students. It is like mining for gold, the gold being those children who need a little help, who need adults to step in and teach them how to make friends, how to ask others to play, how to join a group, or how to share their gifts. It's a bully deterrent because every teacher knows that bullying usually happens outside her eye shot, and that often the kids who are being bullied are too intimidated to share. But as she said, the truth comes out on those safe, private little pieces of paper. As she explained this simple, ingenious idea, I stared at her with my mouth hanging open. How long have you been using this system? Ever since Columbine, she said. Every single Friday afternoon since Columbine. Good Lord. This brilliant woman watched Columbine, knowing all violence begins with disconnection. All outward violence begins as inner loneliness. Who are our next mass shooters, and how do we stop them? We watch that tragedy knowing that children who aren't being noticed may eventually resort to being noticed by any means necessary. And so she decided to start fighting violence early and often in the world within her reach. What she is doing when she sits in her empty classroom studying those lists written with shaky 11-year-old hands is saving lives. I'm convinced of it. And what she has learned while using this system is that everything, even love, even belonging, has a pattern to it. She finds the patterns And through those lists, she breaks the codes of disconnection. Then she gets lonely kids the help they need. Amazing. What a way to spend a life, looking for patterns of love and loneliness, stepping in every single day and altering the trajectory of our world. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I'd like to invite Sue Ellen Lugers to come forward.
Wow, Peter, just wow. Wow. For whatever reason this week, Patty asked me if I wanted to share something, and I'm not sure I ever answered her. Just kind of looked at her. And so she said, well, you can let me know. And I really believe that all of a sudden on, maybe it was Monday evening, God put this word in my head, talk about the children. We know that there are families grieving and mourning. That community is. We are in our own way as well. But you know, I thought about the fact that those children initially had such fear in their eyes. But if they were one of them that was shot and killed, they instantly, and this is my 74-year-old body who has been in Sunday school and church her entire life speaking, they instantly were in the presence of Jesus, leaving us all behind and sad and mourning. But those children today are happier than they've ever been. I truly believe that. But I also thought there's some books. C.S. Lewis is one of my favorite authors. And he wrote these 7 wonderful children's tales called the Chronicles of Narnia. If you haven't read them, you should, because they really are adult books as well. And in those books, he creates this character, a lion. A lion named Aslan. And he fully intended, I believe, and I've attended several conferences about and dealing with Lewis and his works. He fully intended for that lion, Aslan, to represent Jesus Christ. But I would say it took me a long time to figure that out. And probably a lot of people maybe haven't figured that out. But in one of his books, The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, he writes this, and he entitles it Feasting with the Lamb. The children got out of the boat and waded, not towards the wave, but southward with the wall of water on their left. They never felt tired. The water was warm, and all the time it got shallower. At last they were on dry sand and then on grass, a huge plain of very fine, short grass, almost level with the silver sea and spreading in every direction without so much as a molehill. But as they went on, they got the strangest impression that here at last the sky did really come down and join the earth. A blue wall, very bright, but real and solid, more like glass than anything else. And soon they were quite sure of it. But between them and the foot of the sky, there was something so white on the green grass that even with their eagle's eyes, they could hardly look at it. They came on and saw that it was a lamb, L-A-M-B, lamb. "Come and have breakfast," said the lamb in its sweet, milky voice. Then they noticed for the first time that there was a fire lit on the grass and fish roasting on it. They sat down and ate the fish, hungry now for the first time in many days. And it was the most delicious food they had ever tasted. "Please, lamb," said Lucy, "is this the way to Aslan's country?" "Not for you," said the lamb. "For you, the door into Aslan's country is from your own world." "What?" said Edmund. "Is there a way into Aslan's country from our world too?" "There is a way into my country from all the worlds," said the lamb. But as he spoke, his snowy white flushed into tawny gold, and his size changed, and he was Aslan himself, towering above them and scattering light from his mane. "Oh, Aslan," said Lucy, "will you tell us how to get into your country from our world?" "I shall be telling you all the time," said Aslan, "but I will not tell you how long or short the way will be, only that it lies across a river. But do not fear that, for I am the great bridge builder. And now come, I will open the door in the sky and send you to your own land." "Please, Aslan," said Lucy, "before we go, will you tell us when we can come back to Narnia again? Please? And oh, do make it soon." "Dearest," said Aslan very gently, "you and your brother will never come back to Narnia." "Oh, Aslan," said Lucy and Edmund both together in despairing voices. "You are too old, children," said Aslan, "and you must begin to come close to your own world now." "It isn't Narnia, you know," cried Lucy. "It's you. We shan't meet you there. And how can we live never meeting you?" "But you shall meet me, dear one," said Aslan. Are you there too, sir?" said Edmund. "I am," said Aslan, "but there I have another name. You must learn to know me by that name. This was the very reason why you were brought to Narnia, that by knowing me here for a little, you may know me better there." I believe those children are beyond Narnia, in a place where they are loved far, far beyond what they or anyone can imagine.
Thank you, Sue Ellen. And I'd like to invite David Ripley forward to share a song.
Thank you, Patty. I know this is a little far away, but as a gesture, this is my beautiful son, Joshua, who was born on November 1st, 1985. And probably in 1988, I was building a timber frame house for my family, and we were living at that time in the basement of the house. And there was a couch, and I looked there upon the couch, and there was my beautiful 3-year-old Joshua. Maybe he was only 2. And he was curled up in this little ball, fast asleep. And I looked at him, and I thought to myself, oh, if I could put that into a song, that would be so wonderful. And later in that day, the words came to me, but I did not understand how they would be married to music in terms of their meter, their rhythm, their internal life. And perhaps the next day, the music began to come to me. And it turned out that the lyric that came to me was put into 6/8 time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But that within that structure, I found a freedom to soar with the images that my beautiful son had given to me. And thus was born my song, The Sleeping of a Child. And I will sing you the original version, which is a cappella, only the voice. And then in 2012, when Sandy Hook occurred, I said to myself, I must do something as a response to this tragedy. And so though you will not hear it tonight, I arranged The Sleeping of a Child for a 4-part chorus, what we call SATB, soprano, alto, tenor, bass, and harp as a representative of the holiness of these children that were lost. So this is the original version of The Sleeping of a Child. And I may conduct so you can feel the wings within the piece. There's nothing in the world like the sleeping, the sleeping, the sleeping of a child. Like snow upon the bough, the hands and fingers still, the curls upon the head, the little body folded upon the little bed. I wish that all the world would stop and and come to only know the curls and the hands, the trusting limbs and glow, the tenderest of mild, the sleepy, sleepy, sleeping of a child. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I'd like to invite Rob Sargent to come forward.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rob Sargent. I'm a deacon here at Newmarket Community Church. I'm also very active in our community in a variety of ways. Pastor Patty asked me to come here and speak this evening after a conversation we had during a deacon's meeting recently. When I get about halfway through what I've prepared, I'm going off script because as I stepped into the church tonight, some other thoughts came to me, and they won't go away, so bear with me. On Tuesday, May 24th, I, like all of you, heard the terrific news out of Uvalde, Texas. In my case, it was via social media. My very first reaction still sits with me. It wasn't shock. It wasn't outrage. There was really just no feeling at all. And I thought to myself, another one. As I read the news blurb and subsequent articles over the next few days, I ranged from sadness to anger to outrage. See, I remember vividly the mass shooting at Columbine over 23 years ago. Though not the first mass shooting at a school, it was the most egregious, at that time anyway. How could it happen? Why? Why did it happen? What drove the two young men to do this? How can we prevent this from happening again? 23 years, and we're still asking the same questions. Look, we know we have a problem with violence in this country. I guess it depends on whom you ask exactly what the problem is, where it stems from, what we can do, or if it's indeed a culmination of just many issues, which really is how I see it. First, and the one that seems to get a lot of talking points right after one of these events, is a lack of mental health services and a massive stigma around receiving mental health treatment. Yeah, it's a big one. And yeah, I think it could help curb some of the violence, some of those violent issues in this country. But to me, it's not the biggest or even the leading issue. You know, I was going to make this whole list of issues and talk a little bit about each one and go into how much work we have to do and the big tasks involved. And well, ultimately I decided not to. Instead, I'd like to talk a little bit about some of my own experiences. You see, here in the United States, we have a culture that's grown up around firearms. Enshrined in the Constitution of the United States of America is our Second Amendment. These 27 words have been a major point of discussion for many, many years. Court cases have sprung up around them. The last 4 words, in particular, have been a rallying cry for a segment of the population whenever laws regulating firearms are brought up. Shall not be infringed. I used to quote that one a lot. You see, for many years, I was caught up in this hyper-masculine, toxic culture of the worship of firearms. Make no mistake, it is a real thing, and it is out there every day. And it is as addictive as any drug you will find. Take a casual trip to any gun shop and engage in a conversation with someone who works there, or even someone who's just one of the regulars. Eventually, the conversation is going to come around to how the gun is the great equalizer, and that you'll feel powerful holding one. It's not wrong. If you've ever fired a handgun or a rifle, you know that there's that feeling of power. Then, inevitably, there'll be talk about the stopping power. They don't mean dropping a deer. They mean dropping a human, killing someone. And maybe, just maybe, you'll hear someone say something like, make sure you shoot to kill so they don't sue you. How callous, how cold. Or even, I'd rather be judged by 12 than carried by 6. There's some serious false bravado there. And that's really what's grown up around firearms, false bravado, a toxic masculinity, things we don't need. Another phrase that you'll hear if you hang around a gun range long enough is that the way of the warrior is death. And that is true. But the way that they're speaking of it is not. They believe that the way of the warrior is death, and that the warrior is going to bring down death upon their enemies. They are going to have that strength and that power, and they're going to just mete out the wrath. No, that is not the way of the warrior. When we say the way of the warrior is death, that means that the warrior is willing to lay down their life in service to others, that they will give every last bit to help the least of us in our community. A warrior's true strength is in their kindness, and you'll see them be their strongest when they stoop to help a child. A warrior's bravado is found in their humility. No one brags about how strong they are, not if they truly know they are. Friends, I was caught up in this myself. I did. That first time I fired that AR-15, wow. Geez, it felt pretty good. And the gunpowder smell, it can be intoxicating. I used all those argument points about how we need to be able to defend ourselves, how we need to be able to stand up to the corruption of a government, how we need to be able to defend from invaders from a foreign land. Yeah, well, it's not 1812. We don't have invaders from a foreign land. And while I am ready to defend myself and defend those around me if needed, I don't want to. I don't ever want to. So what can we do? How can we fix this? Well, I could go into all sorts of things. In fact, I've got a list here about how, in my opinion, well, we can close the loopholes in background checks. We can make it so that anybody who's been charged with domestic violence can't possess a firearm. We can fully fund the federal background check system, which isn't, by the way, because certain groups like to block the spending for those things. We could go on to talk about how Hollywood glorifies violence, and they do. We could talk about how healthcare for all welfare for all, just making sure that we're all taken care of. But ultimately, to me, what we need to do is to teach kindness and love and inclusion. Those are the points of strength. And that, to me, is the true way of a warrior. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. I have a few words to share of my own, and then I will open it up if anyone would like to share a word or two, although we're going past the hour, so I don't want to keep us too long. I like to try to keep to time commitments. But I would like to share these words. I've been finding it difficult to find the right words for this situation. I'm in the business of words. I can't seem to find them. But here is what's on my heart as a pastor, a mother, a wife, a community leader, a daughter. I don't want to add to the debates and the discord. I want to create connections and build a just community for all people. I don't want to hear any more conversation about sensible gun control not working, or who's to blame, or why we can't change. I want to find compromises. I want to build bridges. I want to take action because something has to change. I don't want to see people, anyone, anywhere being marginalized or minimized, left behind or left out. I commit to add my voice towards the building of community for all people in all places, in all times, whether I'm here in the pulpit or in the grocery store. I commit to this. I don't want to hear anymore that we can't do anything or that it's someone else's job. I want to live by a quote that I heard from Margaret Mead that goes, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world." I'm one of those citizens, and so are you. We all have a role in creating community, that community where everyone feels welcome, protected, has access to the basics that we need for life: food, healthcare, education, and a safe place to live. I commit to continue to lead this church to serve the community by building community and modeling what it means to do so in all things, in all ways, for all people, at all times, all the days of my life. We can do better. We must do better. Thank you. As we move to a close, is there anyone who came tonight hoping to speak who hasn't? Come on forward.
Good evening, everyone. My name's Amy Gigande. I'm the Recreation Director for the town of Newmarket. Have been for the last going on 25 years. Had no idea I was actually coming tonight. Knew I wanted to support this movement. Had no plan to speak, but I think I was inspired by so many people talking tonight and kind of going through my own experiences working with children for the last 25 years. As you might know, if you're community members, we run a summer camp program, and we have up to 300 children every summer in the camp. And you hear about these school you know what we're talking about, and how they have strategies to prevent that from happening, lockdown measures, and every summer I say, oh, I have 300 kids outside. There's no doors. There's nothing that could stop anybody from coming onto the complex other than me going, no. So it's every year I feel I have a conversation with my staff about the vulnerability that we have when we're out there. And so I'm just going to share with you a couple of strategies that we have developed that maybe you as community members can utilize just when you're walking down the street and maybe noticing someone. Similar to what you mentioned, the teacher. She kind of has her own methods and how to do that. And that's the only thing that I really can do is I have, I don't know what I'm going to do about gun control, but I certainly can help identify or help the kids as they grow up. And one of my philosophies is for summer camp is that is totally a social experience. This is when the bullying happens. They're not in school in a structured environment learning. They're actually out there making friends for 8 hours. So what I always explain to the staff when I'm hiring is we teach children how to navigate the playground. That's our philosophy. That's what we do. We teach them how their social skills. And we teach them. A lot of parents will say, why do you always play the games, Amy, where they're going to win or they're going to lose? And I said, because children need to learn how to lose gracefully. And I always say to the staff, we're not teaching them how to win, we're teaching them how to lose gracefully, because in life, you don't always win. And if they don't develop those skills early, then this is what can happen. So if you have an opportunity to play with your nephew or your grandchild, don't let them win all the time. You have to let them lose and learn how to lose. That's just a suggestion. Also, one of the philosophies that we have is watch lifeguards at a pool, keeping their eye on the pool. Their eyes are never off the pool or at water country or at the beach. They are constantly looking for kids out there who might be drowning or people. And it's all of our responsibility to be lifeguards, because there are people out there drowning emotionally, and you have to look for the signs. And so we teach our staff to look for the signs on the playground. We always assign one of our counselors who's not necessarily actively playing with the children, but they're doing the 360. They're looking for that child that might be under the slide with no friends. They're looking at that child who looks like they might have had a bad day, or environmentally from home, things aren't going well. We look for those things. So that's something you as community members can also do when you're walking in the mall or walking down the street, is look for those kind of signs and maybe offer a kind word. That could make somebody's day. Again, one of the other things that we do is we hire and employ the youth. And most of the youth that we hire are at that age. They're at that age. And I've had staff members who come to me and I'm like, this person needs a job and this person needs to gain some confidence. And I'm hiring them because they could go the other way. So if you have that opportunity, reach out and try to give them some hope. And that's, one of the things that we as the rec department for your town are doing for our kids and the youth that we employ. And I think over 25 years, I think I've had 7,500 kids walk through the door and probably have employed 1,000 youth. So we are working for you, and we are looking out for this community. So, if you see a staff member wearing a Camp One Iguana shirt, or anybody from the rec department, tell them thank you, because they are the best.
Thank you, Amy. Can you teach adults how to play on the playground too? That might be like a Facebook group, maybe, or I'm teasing. Any other comments as I invite Elaine Pratt, who's going to lead us in ascending prayer. But any other comments before? All right, Elaine, thank you.
This is a prayer by Theologian Henry Nauen, one of my favorites, and it seemed to be very appropriate for this evening. Would you please join me in prayer? Dear God, speak gently in my silence, when the loud outer noises of my surroundings and the loud inner noises of my fears keep pulling me away from you. Help me to trust that you are still there, even when I am unable to hear you. Give me ears to listen to your small, soft voice saying, "Come to me, you who are overburdened, and I will give you rest, for I am gentle and humble of heart." Let that loving voice be my guide. Amen.
Thank you, Elaine. And as I invite Craig to come forward to lead us in ascending song, for those of you that are here, I want to just call your attention to the back of your program. If you'd like to continue the conversation, I've invited you to add your contact information there. If you're at home and you're tuning in, I invite you to write your information to me in an email at pastor@newmarketchurch.org, or write into the chat and we'll find you. Thank you.
This is a song I actually got from Pastor Patty. She sent it to our pastor support group or friendship group. And sorry, that. Oh, Sue Ellen, thank you. The Thoughts and Prayers song. Please, will you see the words? You may see the words. Please sing along, and the tune you will know. The Water is Wide tune. These words are very important to me today. If we just talk of thoughts and prayers and don't live out a faith that dares, and don't take on the ways of death, our thoughts and prayers are fleeting breath. If we just dream of what could be and do not build community and do not seek to change our ways, our dreams of change are false displays. If we just sing of doing good and don't walk through our neighborhood to learn its hope, to ease its pain, our talk of good is simply vain. God, may our prayers and dreams and songs lead to a faith that takes on wrongs, that works for peace and justice too. Then will our prayers bring joy to you.